Department of Interior and Local Government, Mr. Mel Sarmiento.
To the President, as well as the other officers, members of SEIPI, we also have with us Commissioner Albert Lina of the Bureau of Customs, Secretary Lilia de Lima of PESA, Director General, Undersecretary Loretta Aizon of the Department of Energy. Sa ating pong lahat, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Good afternoon. You're kind of full, I guess. Good afternoon. In Waray-Waray, we say, maupay nga kulop sa iyong tanan. We speak Waray-Waray with an S. I'm from Samar, but the rest of the Waray-Waray speaking people, they use letter H. From my city, if you drive down south about 30 kilometers away from our city, the S becomes H. Sa amin, yung Saamon becomes Haamon. But if you drive up north, about 3 kilometers from the population area, we speak Bola, Tagalog already. Sabi ko na wag kunin, kinunin niyo lugod. Pinaghalo po yung Tagalog and Waray-Waray, and 3 kilometers away from the population area. From that area, we speak Bolano already. Wadja, Soltiano, and Ja goes back to Waray, and 16 kilometers away from that area, we speak Cebuano already. Saksak Sinagol. That's how diverse my city is in Samar. Why am I talking about the city? DILG provided me with a prepared speech reporting of what the department has accomplished the past few years. But I just assumed office, but listening to what you were stating earlier, I had to dispense my speech. And I can still recall when I was still in the private sector, trying to follow things up in the business permit and licensing office, I encountered all the things that you have cited when I was still a business person. So when I became a politician by accident, I didn't plan this. I was very active with a good number of civic organizations and ending up being pestered almost daily by the people to run for the mayorship of my city. And the very first thing that we did right after assumption, right after I assumed office as mayor of my city, is to create a one-stop shop for business people. No drawers allowed. Everyone is there. There used to be 22 signatories. We cut it down to 2. And the 2 persons, they have an alternate signatory of 2 other people so that we don't delay the process of business licensing. And we were able to do it in 30 minutes, eventually ending up as a resource city of the Department of Trade and Industry. In 2001, we used a tool called the City Development Strategy Approach. It's a participatory approach in governance to ensure that we're able to sustain the things that we have started, to ensure that the vision of the city is not the mayor's vision, because the problem in this country, every time there's a change in leadership, the vision likewise changes. If only to ensure that we're able to sustain the things that we would want to happen, as mayor, I became the facilitator of that process, involving all the stakeholders in the community to draw up our vision as a shared vision, shared mission. We conducted likewise SWOT, that self-diagnostic examination, among other things that we did that eventually is now being implemented by national government. It's now called the bottom-up budgeting program of the DILG of the national government. And in 2004, together with the late Secretary Jesse Robredo, we were the first ones to experiment the use of the balance scorecard in the public sector. And we are now likewise trying our best to advocate the use of this instrument, not only with the national government agencies, more importantly, to the local government units. And the most important lesson, I guess, is there is really a big difference between working for the people and working with the people. We came to realize that government is able to do more by working with the various stakeholders. In that process that we use, we invited all the stakeholders to identify the problems and ask them for potential solutions to those problems. And we implemented it, and it has somewhat helped us get a good number of recognitions from different institutions, to include Galing Puok. We were cited as, when we started out in 2001, the city was basically bankrupt. And in 2007 or 2008, we were cited by the Asian Institute of Management as one of the most competitive small-sized cities in the Philippines. And more importantly, by working with the business sector, the farmers, and everyone else, the best recognition we feel that we receive is the report of the National Statistics Coordinating Board. In 2003, we were cited as the poorest city in the Philippines, per capita-wise. By using all these instruments in 2009, we were recognized. In that report, it says that we were out of the top 10 poorest, and we recorded the highest reduction in poverty incidence, reducing it by 27.8%. And what's the key to this success? It's partnership with the stakeholders, especially the business people. We always tell our people in City Hall, the most important people in City Hall transacting with us is the business sector, because they're basically bringing in the money that we would need to finance all our projects and programs for our community. And these are the things that as SILG, we will continue to pursue, to continue to advocate in addressing, if only to ensure that we're able to provide an environment that is friendly to business people and for us to be able to attract more investments in the area. As Secretary General of the League of Cities of the Philippines, this humble representation worked closely together with the League, with Bill Luz in the National Competitiveness Council, and was very much active together with some financing institutions with respect to the ease of doing business report in trying to look for ways to simplify things to make it faster, among others. So I was listening to the things that you have mentioned earlier. I just received, I communicated right away with the Chief PNP. I did sign the communication as early as October 6 with respect to the deadline of October 31. I just received a text from the Chief PNP. He already signed to extend it by April of next year. But this is a stopgap measure. We have to put a stop to this problem. And it's not going to be the plan of the PNP is for the PNP to call that meeting. This representation will not allow that. To ensure that we will be able to work closely, this representation will be the one to call them as the Secretary of the DILG. I fully understand the situation on the ground. We have a very dynamic Chief PNP, so passionate about the service. But whether we like it or not, we have to deal with PDEA. And the head of PDEA is an upper-class person in the Philippine Military Academy. I can just imagine Chief PNP pressuring the PDEA, who happens to be an upper class in the Philippine Military Academy. If only to ensure that we're able to hopefully come up with a solution together with the private sector. This representation, as I've said, will call that meeting. We will be inviting you, and we need you to support us, by suggesting with ways on how we will be able to simplify things and for us to finally address this problem. With that, I won't deliver a very long message. The most important part, I guess, is let's start working by next week. I'm finished this after all. Thank you. We have to finish this problem. And magandang hapon po sa ating lahat at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you. Thank you very much, DILG Secretary Mel Sarmiento.